Hey, gonna film a little miniature garden tour because I feel like it. I might not post it. We'll see. Also, excuse my raspy baby. Our family has been sick this week. Okay, so first row we have tomatoes, and I planted things in between. My amazing mother-in-law Heather gave me all of these plants, all these tomato plants, and some of the stuff in between also. So, goodness. I actually don't remember what varieties they are. I think this one on the end is a spoon tomato because we were just talking about it. Here's a marigold that's about to bloom. I don't know if you can see it in between, nestled in between. Lots of beautiful tomato plants. I don't remember what that is. Some basil. I think there might be petunia here or a pansy. I don't recall. Celosia that's blooming. It's a pretty hot pink color. Here I have some beautiful poke salad, which the Arab Poke Salad Festival is this weekend, so I'm going to try to chop all of it I can find, chop it down, and bring it to donate for them to cook and serve. We'll see if I get to that with 3 kids. Here is some golden hyssop. Some more of this. I want to say tansy, but I feel like tansy is more feathery. Some more basil in between. I don't remember what this one is either. She had them written on the pots, and I just didn't make any markers. There's a globe basil. It's a miniature basil variety. I bought that at the farmer's market, as well as a few of the other plants I have here. Another beautiful basil. Lots of companion plants that I honestly don't recall what they are. I think this one's blue spice basil, possibly, and another pretty celosia. And then on the end over here we have some pepper plants that are not doing great. The ones on the very end are Bonnie plants. They were 2 in a pot, and I divided them, and they did not like that, and they've just had pest pressure since I put them out here. This zinnia came from the farmer's market. Not too much to see on this end right here. I just planted some watermelon seeds on the end of this row, as well as that one, and I just kind of hoed up this end of this row. My mother-in-law is going to give me some more tomatoes that volunteered in her garden, and so I'm just going to plant those on the end of this row whenever I get them. If you see markers, they are volunteer tomato plants that came up from last year's seeds that were all in this garden. Also, I'm growing lots of ants, if you can't tell. It's been too rainy to do anything to them. I transplanted these 2 tomato plants from other spots in the garden that had volunteered. Another farmer's market basil plant. Some lavender, and then here we get to some plants that my amazing friend Rachel gave to me. She started her own seeds this year, so I've got some chamomile and celery and an artichoke. I thought I had 2 cucumbers, but I think this one might be a squash plant. Calendula and a really beautiful kale plant that I need to pick before it gets too hot. A couple brassicas. I think one of them was a broccoli and the other one was a cauliflower. And I don't recall what this one is in the middle, but it looks like it might be about to bloom. Maybe that one's the cauliflower. There's the cucumber, I think. These were more pots that were labeled on the pots, and I just never made markers, so it's surprise plants. This eggplant did not do good. Pests here really love my eggplants, so I've never successfully grown more than one single fruit on a plant. And some peppers that are doing great, starting to set out blooms. And on this end, I've just finished sowing some bush beans of different varieties. This is a rosemary plant that I pulled out of last year's garden. I saved it because we're about to raise the whole thing and put chickens on it. I've put cucumbers on this T-post and squash, patty pan squash on this T-post, ground cherries around that one, some zinnias and some black beauty zucchini around this T-post. Over here I have some lemongrass that I also got at the farmer's market, and then like I said, I had planted some watermelon seeds on the end, so we'll see how these do this year, if I can keep them watered. Pretty small garden this year, but it's a lot easier to manage in between holding a baby. And in case anyone is wondering how the garden jungle is doing, growing lots of beautiful poke salad. I don't know if they can use it when it gets this tall, but I'm gonna cut it down probably tomorrow and take it and see what happens. I have lots of strawberry plants. They've spread all over the place on this half of the garden. Good strawberries. We've been eating about a handful a day at least, when the rain doesn't make them inedible. There's also wild strawberries mixed in, or mock strawberries. They don't taste like anything, so they're not the real wild ones. Here is, I believe, a marjoram plant that is still alive and thriving. I need to transplant it. Here is 2 peach trees, taller than me. We had never noticed them until the end of the year last year when everything else died and this still had leaves on it. The best we can guess, the chickens planted them before we took them off the garden year before last. So that's crazy. I guess we're just leaving that there. I have, this is native, no, not this, sorry, that's a weed. This is native bee balm, and it was like a huge bush size patch, this, like as tall as me last year. So gonna dig some of that up and save it. And here is some catnip, which I will do the same. And all of this is strawberry mint. Yes, I know I put a mint plant in the ground, but I assumed because it was one of the weird varieties it wouldn't come back, and it proved me wrong. Over here, I think this was a blue salvia, maybe? Or maybe, I don't know, the flowers kind of look like lavender to me. It's very pretty. I have another one coming up in a different spot. Part of the reason we're not planting on this garden this year, I don't know if you see all this really tall grass. This is an extremely invasive Chinese grass. And it gets these silver red seed heads on the top. It spreads very, very, very fast. And it took over half the garden last year, and it's already starting to take over again. So we're gonna burn everything and put chickens on here for at least a year and see if they can kill it, because it's not supposed to be here. Here we have my one dahlia plant, which is already almost waist high, doing very beautifully. Over here I have some comfrey, which I planted last year. I got the plants from Azure Standard. This was one plant last year. It might still be one plant. I don't know. And some mullein over here. Excuse the sounds of me walking through the dead jungle. Big, beautiful plant. This is like almost 3 feet wide. I'm gonna have to transplant it as well. This is some hyssop that my mother-in-law gave me last year as a teeny tiny plant, and it has just grown up like crazy. It's waist high already. And then over here, through the weeds, is some tansy that she also gave me. And I'm gonna transplant both of these, although I'm pretty sure there's gonna be volunteers everywhere from it. And then lastly, I planted this Alabama blue collared plant last year in spring. It died back and came back in the fall, lived all through the winter, and has gone to seed. And I'm just gonna let the seed heads dry and save the seed, and then I'll have lots and lots of collard seeds. Also, here is my tiny blueberry bush that my mother gave me last year for my birthday, I think. I don't remember, but it's got lots of fruit set. I'm excited. And over here, we have Ember's garden. We planted strawberries along the edge. That is a mug that got chipped last year, and I saved it for a frog house. So that's a frog house. My mama gave me this plant. It was blooming purple. I can't remember what it was. Some rosemary, some plants we picked out at the garden center in the middle there. They've already bloomed. A little flower that Ember rescued from clearance. Some basil that looks like it's not doing too hot for some reason. A little tomato plant. And a little snacking pepper plant, which has some fruit set on it. Ember comes out here every day and checks all her plants. And the stuff in the corner over there, she put on there. She said she was gonna grow more plants with the things that she gathered. What you doing? That's Lutz. He's our free-range rooster. He thinks I have snacks. There's my garden tour. Most of my time is spent holding this little ginger bug, so don't have much to take care of this year, but I'm gonna do my best.